Before we proceed, I would like her to say hi to us. Hello, Risa, can you hear us?
Hey, yeah, I can hear y'all. And thanks for the awesome introduction. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, yeah, welcome. I guess we can kickstart the podcast right away. Okay, so can you tell us a bit about yourself, um, your background, basically?
Yeah. So right now, I'm currently working at GitHub as a developer advocate. Um, and I've been working there since September 2021, and that's kind of when I got my first introduction to open source because I actually had no experience with open source before that. But my manager at the time encouraged me to contribute, and then I like wrote a blog post talking about what open source was and what the experience was making my first contribution, and it was really exciting and fun. Before that, I was a software engineer, and before that, I was in help desk. So I've been like navigating tech since like 2016 in different types of roles. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, it's nice hearing that from you. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, you talk about being part of GitHub team. Can you tell us what you do as a GitHubber? What you do, your day-to-day activity at GitHub, basically?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I'm a developer advocate at GitHub. Specifically, I'm a junior developer advocate. And it's kind of hard to describe my day to day because developer advocates do so many different things. But our main responsibility is helping the company um give more exposure or empower developers to use their product. So, for example, with GitHub, I want people to realize and recognize that there's different products out there like GitHub Actions, GitHub Copilot, GitHub Code Spaces, and I want them to learn how to be able to leverage it. In addition to like the other stuff on like making a pull request, I want to be able to like educate and empower them so that they're able to like know how to use it. And then on the flip side, what developer advocates also do is like they talk to customers and they figure out like how can GitHub make the product better for them. But the way we do education is like through content creation or speaking at conferences.
Oh, cool. That's cool. But on a side note, what is GitHub itself? You
Oh,
mentioned GitHub. What you
sorry.
do there? Okay.
GitHub is I like to describe it as basically a platform where developers store their code. But it's often used for open source. Right now, I think we have about 94 million users. It's often used for open source, so people may store their like open source code on there, and then like whether you're a designer, like we mentioned, or a developer, whatever different role, you can go ahead and contribute to those projects there.
Oh, nice. Okay. I guess everybody watching us right now, we know that, okay, this is GitHub, this is what they do, and this is what Reset do at GitHub presently. Now, it's nice. Thank you for so much for that explanation about what GitHub is all about. And I guess we are here for a particular purpose, and we call this show Open Source Wednesday, basically. And hearing that, you'll be like, okay, we want to talk about open source, and that is why we are here. At this point, I want to welcome everybody to the show. For those of you that started with us, for those of you joining right now, you're welcome. We can't just imagine you contributing to open source after listening to this particular talk or starting your open source project or being part of open source community. So with that, we'll get started and we'll get to talk about what open source really means and what impacts to open source contribute to the society or to our community at large. So that leads me to the next question for Rizel, and that is, what is open source itself?
Yeah, okay. So I may describe it differently than some other people, but I think of open source as a way it's an open, transparent way to collaborate with other folks. So the most common way that people use open source is through like open source software. So people may build like a program or software and then have other people contribute or help them make it better. It's like allowing other people to be able to see the code and the ID and be like, oh, I want to add this into it or whatever. But it doesn't have to do with just software. You can have open source hardware as well. And also there's like other industries who are embracing open source a bit more. Um, I know for All In, which is like an initiative started by Demetrius Cheatham, she's trying to open source diversity and inclusion. So rather than them just like having like each diversity and inclusion person having their own ideas and implementing them with the company, they'll be sharing diversity and inclusion ideas with everybody else, and collaborating that way, and bringing it into the open source game. So I think of it as just like an open way to like be transparent about like, here's how this is made, and if you want to help us to make this better, you can come in and contribute.
Nice, cool. The interesting part is the fact that open source bring about a kind of transparency where people to see that okay, the software we're using or the system we want to be using, this is the source code. This how reliable it is. It is based on community contribution. That's cool. Thank you so much for explaining that to us. And basically, my next question would be: okay, now we know that there's a kind of transparency from open source and any kind of open source software that we are using. But why is it open source really matters? Why does it matters to us?
Yeah, I mean, I think it matters for a number of reasons, but like one of the main reasons is that many of our technologies are like using open source. Like Netflix and all those other things are using different open source technologies. Some of like the code we write with, like React, is open source, and like Linux and like different operating systems are open source. I think open source is really what like the almost the entire technology industry and world in general is depending on, and I think that's why it matters.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's cool. I guess if I'm building a kind of system, there's a kind of 60 to 50% assurance that I will still be relying on any kind of open source system or any kind of packages out there that is open source. Basically, that's true, and that's one of the reasons why this matters. Okay. I guess my next question for you would be okay. Now that I'm interested. I've no. You tell us the reason why it matters. You explain what open source itself, the meaning itself to us. Our next question would be like, okay, so how can I be part of the open source? How do I need to do anything, or I just have to go there, pick the package, use it, and dump it after I've used it, or do I really need to do any kind of things to the community or to this project itself or to the system that we are talking about, basically?
Yeah, I think it's important. Like I'll talk about like why I think it's important to contribute, and then like how they can, I guess. Um, I think it's important because like a lot of open source maintainers are doing this work for free. Not all of them, but they're either doing it for free or underpaid. And then a lot of companies are essentially making money off of it. Like all the different startups or all big tech and stuff like that, they're using these packages, they're making money off of it, and the person who created it isn't. And I think it's important to be able to support those people. And whether or not you can support them financially, you can also support them by like giving your knowledge. So whether you're a developer or designer, you can add to it. And then also you may have ideas if you're one of the people who is a user of that product or package or whatever open source thing, and you'll be able to like contribute your idea and make it better for you and others as well. And if you wanted to contribute, I think there's a number of ways. So I would suggest going on a platform like GitHub or GitLab. And I know GitHub has like the topics section. So if you have a specific language that you like prefer or specific tooling, you can search in the like topics or explore section and then find like some of the open source projects there. Um, there's other things too, like there's aggregators called like first time contributions.com or something like that. I have to double check on the URL for that, but that has like a list of contribution or sorry, open source projects looking for people who want to make their first contribution to an open source project. That's one way you can find it. Or you can think about like some of the different tools that you use today that you're like, oh, I can give back to that. I didn't realize this was open source. Like OBS is open source, React, Visual Studio Code. So those are different ways. And then you would go to their, once you find the project on GitHub or GitLab, you would go to their contributing guidelines documents, and that will like tell you the steps on like how to contribute. It varies sometimes project per project.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. I guess you make a point on how we can get started on the first step to take if I want to be part of open source community or I want to contribute to any kind of open source system or software or project. Basically, probably we should be using projects, whether we want to say software or want to say system, quote unquote project at this point. So
Yeah.
if you go to github.com, you don't know anything about the project you want to contribute to. You search and different repository come to pop up on your screen. Definitely, this particular repository is a public repository that you can contribute to, which are open source. But then it is very good for you to know what you want to contribute to before you even leave your before you even go to github.com. So you can do a quick Google search and be like, okay, I'm a JavaScript developer and I've been building on JavaScript for some times. Definitely, you'll have been using one package on your JavaScript project or many other things you have been using as a programmer or as a software engineer that you be. So for you to be able to now find that project that is very cool for you will be like, okay, the experience you have in using that package, oh, we need to improve this particular thing, this package. Okay, instead of making it a kind of while loop inside the package, why can't we just make it more efficient than that, like increase the time complexity and every other thing that comes to it. Yeah, thank you, Rizel, for that. A brief introduction on how we can get started on if you want to contribute to open source. All right, thank you. So there are many things that you mentioned while saying that you are like, okay, people that contribute to open source, some of them do it for free, and while some of them do it by getting a kind of, probably we call it sponsors, or get a benefit. Some students even get what's it called, internship. Some people, like people that do outreaches and a kind of open source internship for students who are participating, contributing to open source projects. The whole of Google Summer of Code is, so these are kind of benefits. So I want to push it to you as an experienced person. What are the benefits do you think we can get out of being contributing to open source, basically?
Yeah, I think overall it can help to elevate your career. At first, I didn't really understand that. Like, I was like, I don't want to code for free because I already have a software engineering job. I get paid. But one, it can expose you to like different technologies that you may not get exposed to at work or in your school life, or different like technological problems as well, right? Like maybe at school you only like been writing in Java, and at your job you work in Python, and you have these specific issues and you get used to them. But now in open source, maybe there's like a social impact issue that you can solve, or you can learn JavaScript or WebAssembly or something, machine learning, right? Like that gives you the opportunity to be able to learn and like in public. And then in addition to that, you can add that to your resume. People can look at your GitHub contributions and be like, wow, look at this person, they're really going in. So if you wanted to get a new job or get promoted or something like that, that's like a good reflection of like the work that you've been doing and the work that you're able to do outside of school or outside of work. I think it also helps you to get to network a little bit more with other people. There's like some really influential developers out there that are contributing to open source, and you may get a chance to connect with them. They may be able to suggest you for a job in the future. um, and I think also, like you said, like there's internships and stuff like that out there working in open source. I just think overall it can like elevate your career. It can give you more exposure to different problems and make you a better like technologist or developer overall.
Yeah, nice. I guess any student or anybody that is considering going to open source should be able to pick one or two things from what you just said now. Um, Being part of career growth, if you are contributing to open source, it should definitely elevate your career. If a recruiter or somebody or an hiring manager check your resume and you'll be like, I've contributed to React JS. So, and they want to recruit for a React JS developer, they'll be like, okay, the person that is able or was able to contribute to open source and was able to contribute to React JS itself, the system, the software that we are using, the project we are using, definitely you should be able to work with our code base, no matter how large it is. So definitely it brings a kind of career elevation to you once you are contributing to open source. All right, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That will lead us to the next question, which would be, okay, is there anything like career in open source? Can I say, oh, I'm an open source contributor, I don't do anything again? Is there anything like that? And if there's something like that, how can we be part of, okay, how can we add open source to our career? How can we now say, oh, I'm an open source contributor in this context? Okay, before we now move to, okay, how can I contribute better, no code contribution, design contribution, all of that? Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there are definitely there's some companies that are just open source companies like Vercel and Astro. Those are open source companies that people can work at and become like make a career out of an open source like life or whatever or career. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. One of the product that is an open source product is popularly known Upright, and it's an open source project that we know. Okay, and there are people working as an Upright, like I can't remember what they call themselves. Basically, what I know is Rizel is a hubber because he work at GitHub. But I don't know what Upright people call themselves. All right, okay. So um, all right. I just get into tech. Probably I started not long ago, and I'm not interested in writing code. Can I
Hmm.
still participate, or can I still be part of open source contribution, or is there a way I can contribute to open source? On that, I guess the first time we met was when you came to talk to us about no code contribution at GitHub as a GitHub campus expert, and I was like, okay, you show
Yeah.
us a lot of ways. So can you just gist us a bit of that right now?
Yeah, you can be a designer. You can help to like design the logos for the project. You can design the UI for the project as well. You can help with the project management of it as well, like or the product management. So if you wanted to help with like triaging issues, you can reach out to a maintainer because I'm sure they will love your help. That's a lot of the maintainers' job is to like help to triage the issues. So you can hop in and do that, and that can help to exercise your skills and build up your skills that you're not just a developer. You could also do like product management or project management. You can what are the other things you can do, be a technical writer for it. um like you can like write out documentation so people can learn how to use the product better. You can even be a developer advocate for an open source project by like creating content around it, like blog posts or videos or doing Twitch streams of yourself contributing or whatever. So yeah, there's like any job in my opinion that you can think of within like a software company. You can make it happen in an open source project. It's a little bit less defined or obvious, but if you reach out to the maintainer and talk to them, I'm sure they'll be glad to have your contribution, your non-code contribution.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess those people that don't write code, we have one or two things to pick at this point. Like, okay, I can create content around the project. I can help them with their documentations. Like I can remember not long ago Rezer he wrote an article basically on how to contribute to open source, where it give a lot of links to different open source projects that you can contribute to. I was like, oh, I would talk to her and be like, okay, where did you get all this information from? Like, there should be a kind of directory or a project or somewhere that people can just go to and be like, okay, this particular project is looking for this particular project is looking for that. Okay, we'll talk about that after the show. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been talking about a lot about the contributors, and I guess it will be a good part of our show to talk about the maintainers too. Okay, there should be some people behind this particular project that people want to contribute to. So I will start by, okay, who are the maintainers? Who owns this project that we call open source project, basically?
Yeah. Wait. Oh, wait. Who's the maintainers you asked?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I would define maintainers as like the CEO of the project. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it's a super influential person. Sometimes it's just someone like me that decided to create a repo and create a project and then encouraged other people to contribute to it. I don't know if I know how to answer that question.
Exactly. You give a brief and a straightforward answer to it. Like it's a good one. Like okay, it's the person that created the repo and probably some team that comes behind it that started managing it. If you make a pull request, there are the people that have to check through what the PR you submitted. They will be like, okay, we can push this PR and match it to the master branch or the main branch, and people can start using it, or people can start using it anyhow. Okay, so that's the basic point that is that okay, people that are behind the project, like, we can call them a maintainer is people behind that particular project that
Yeah,
everybody is using. Yeah,
yeah, they're
that's
managing it.
straightforward.
And
Exactly.
I want to edit what I said. Sometimes it's not the person that created it. Sometimes people bring in like another maintainer to help them, or they say, I don't want to maintain this project anymore. I'm gonna let somebody else do it for me. So, like you said, the person supervising or maintaining the project, I think of them as like the CEO of the project. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And okay, what would be the next question? Basically, would be now why should I even think? Okay, probably I'm working in a company and I have my full time job. Why should I think of okay? Let me go and create an open source project, or why should I think of becoming an open source maintainer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it again similar to contributing to open source. It'll give you skills that you may not be getting in your full-time job, right? Like you'll get to learn about management skills and even marketing skills and product management skills and um I think it can help to elevate you from like if you're a junior software engineer to the next level or eventually understand how to be an engineering manager because you have to deal with other people putting in pull requests and you have to make sure their code is like up to quality, passing the test, and just overall a lot of the different management pieces there within a maintainer can really help to build up your skill sets outside of just pure coding. And then maybe sometimes you'll just have like a problem that you want to be solved, so you can create the project, and rather than just working on it alone, which many developers do, like they'll create like a private repo and start to work on solving a problem alone. You can do it with somebody else or bring in more people and you can learn from them because maybe you don't know, like maybe you know like how to solve a problem in a particular way, but a contributor can come in and be like, oh, have you thought of like adding in machine learning with this or blah blah blah, and I can help you to do that. So you can learn from reading their code and interacting with them as well.
Yeah, that's true. Like that what you just said now is enough to start a project and make it open source. Basically to get more experience and get exposed to a lot of things outside there. If you start a project on your own, you get to know the rudiments behind owning a project yourself or maintaining a project yourself. And I can remember one of the project I created that I am boast of, like some though quote unquote it's not really up to standard that we can call a final project. But then with the passion of open source, and my mates reached out to me during October 2020 or 2019 back then and be like, can we just create a project for ourselves and get to introduce students to what they can do and how they can contribute to open source. And when we start it together, we will understand the basic concepts and know that, oh, this was going on here, this was going on here. So for us to contribute, it will not be very difficult for us to contribute to it. And that's how we started Dev Resume. We call it Dev Resume. And basically, what we are planning to achieve is okay, we want students to be able, or anybody that contributes to that project, to have a kind of card. And that card will contain their information, what they're passionate about, what their future ambition, and what they are doing currently. And a lot of people, I guess we had over 100 contribution that
Wow.
2020 alone, and we were like, okay, this really makes sense to people. People find it interesting, and well, okay, that's how people started. Some of the members that we created the project together were like, oh, let's do more. And that's how many of us get into open source. We get to talk about open source, and and in our free time we choose to do code contributions to contribute to open source and write code and all of that. So it's a good one. We get to understand the basic rudiments, and that's a good suggestion or a good tips for us around that. So if you are watching out and you are contemplating and be like, should I start an open source project? Yeah, you should go ahead and start. for you to have a deep knowledge of how owning a project, how having a project, how managing a project yourself get to add to your career, and you get to learn a lot from it. So definitely go ahead and do that right now. Marissa, thank you so much for answering all our questions, and I would like to proceed and ask you the next question, basically. And I know you are here for us this evening. Am I right?
Yeah. That was awesome though. That was a great story about like starting an open source project and having 100 contributors.
Yeah. So my next question for you would be now I've gotten a passion, or I've gotten an interest and everything that I need to start, and I'm now like, okay, Rashid, you get to start an open source project. And okay, we do that. Next thing will be, okay, after I've created the repository and push out the project there, what should be my next step? How can I promote this particular project? So that's the next question for Rizel. I've created a project, and probably nobody wants to use it at this moment, or people that are using it, I want more people to use it. So what should be my next step to promote that particular project?
Yeah, I think you kind of got to do a little bit of developer advocacy for your project. Um, And a lot of developers don't like to promote stuff because I don't know, they feel like it's embarrassing, but it's important because no one's gonna no one's gonna promote your stuff if like no one else is, so you have to. And that's how other people get their stuff out there. It's not. I think a lot of times we're like, oh, they'll just find it because it's so good, but like there's so many different things on the internet. They're not just gonna find it. So I think as you're building the project, like don't just build it and then wait for people to come. As you're building the project, start like writing or tweeting or talking about what you've been doing and what the challenges and wins that you've had. So like let's say you implemented a first feature or something like that, you can write a blog post or you can tweet about like that feature that you put out. Or you can sign up to talk about it at a meetup, or eventually if you're feeling confident, talk about it at a conference and be like, oh, I implemented like audio or whatever on my project and now it got better. And I struggled with like doing OAuth, but then I was able to solve it by doing this, something like that. And that can attract people more because then they get to feel invested in your journey and they're like, oh cool, that's what you're doing. That's like really cool. Or they're like, oh, I didn't know that this solution existed, I want to try out your project. So I think through things like that you can, one, help people get interested in like using your project, contributing to your project, and eventually sponsoring you too. I think making a GitHub sponsors profile, so that you can earn money is also pretty important.
Yeah, I guess we'll definitely talk about. We'll talk around GitHub sponsor a bit when we move forward. Like,
Yes.
okay, we get to know what basically mean. Actually, we are saying we are doing open source, but there's nothing bad making money from it. People
No.
that are using these projects or this system that will beat out there, they may say, okay, I love this project. Let just sponsor it with something. So we get to talk about that in a bit as we progress. So stay tuned and stay connect. Like just connect to us. We'll get to that particular page or section basically. So my next question for Rizel will be, okay. Before I even ask that question, I guess most thing that people do that we do as a programmer or as a software developer or wherever you call yourself in this when you build something, you'll be like, this is not enough for people to use, and you just put it there where you built it. Possibly you create probably you it's an a closed or a private repository that you created that you are basically using, and just be like, I will not make it public. This is not awesome enough, this is not good enough. No, the advice we are giving you on this show is, no matter how you think powerful this project is, just share it with people.
Yeah.
Let people see it. Yeah, just let people see it out there. People will be like, okay, this is what this guy is trying to achieve, or this person is going to achieve. And you can see somebody that will push your idea forward, and you'll be like, okay, is this my idea? I see how cool it is, and you'll be very proud to start it in the first place. So the advice that we are giving right now is, no matter what you build, no matter how small it is, share it with people. Let people see it. Just throw away that imposter syndrome that it's not good, or that fear in you. Throw it away. Share it. if you can't share it with the whole world, you can't post it on the internet. Share it with people around you. Okay, be like, Rashid, come and see what I've built, and I'm afraid to share it with other than you because I don't want people to mock me or something like that. So the advice is just share it to somebody. You will definitely you will not regret sharing it.
Yeah.
So there is this research carried out some years back that okay, most of the projects built by computer science students, most of them do software related projects and hardware related projects. Most of them, this particular research said that okay, most of them do die whenever they finish the project and they fail to share it with the world. So
Yeah.
basic points or the concept we want to get out of this is share your that solution that you built, share it with people.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want me to advocate for it, I will be very glad to help you promote it on the internet and wherever you want me to do to it. Okay, so just go out there and share it with people. Okay, so I guess we can talk about GitHub sponsor at this point. We're talking about open source, and we know that most of the way people can contribute, people can maintain projects is through GitHub. Basically, one of the tools, popular tools that people use is GitHub. Although we have others, but at this in this context, most of the one that people use, I could in the past, while we are doing Oktoberfest, we only used GitHub for Oktoberfest. It was just of recent that we joined GitLab or GitLab joined the whole of Oktoberfest from DigitalOcean. And yeah, but then at this point, I want you to tell us about GitHub sponsor before you tell us how we can get to. Although some of my folks listening from Nigeria may not be may not be benefiting from that because I've not seen Nigeria on the list so far. I've seen a lot of
Oh, it's
African.
not. Oh, I thought it would be. I knew that they put out like more like regions. No, I thought Nigeria was there. That sucks. But hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
So, yeah. So you can tell us a bit about that. Basically, we
Yeah.
keep anticipating for you to come to our country and start
Yeah.
benefiting from it.
So for people waiting for it, GitHub sponsors is essentially a way to pay or to help maintainers and contributors get what they're worth or their value, right? So like what we mentioned earlier in the conversation, a lot of open source maintainers and contributors don't get paid. And like often the idea is like, oh, you're getting experience or whatever, which is nice, but like again we said, a lot of other companies are making money off of these open source projects. Um, so what GitHub did is they created GitHub sponsors to make it easier for people to to give back to these projects. It's almost like Patreon or like those type of things where like you can like do a donation, but if you see a project that you're like, wow, I really appreciated this project, it's done a lot for me, or you're like, wow, I really appreciate this person, and all they've been doing in the community, you can go ahead and contribute money to them or sponsor them, and they have like different tiers. So like maybe you can do like $5 a month, or you can do a one time payment of like $20 or whatever, and they'll often show like a progress bar of like what their goals are. So some projects, they may be paying like three maintainers full time, a certain amount of money a month, and they may say like, okay, for this month we're going to need this total to be able to pay these three maintainers, and then other developers or engineering managers or whoever can find that project and be like, you know what, I found this project useful, and I find you all useful, so I want to give money to that project. So that's what like the idea behind GitHub sponsors in. It's available in 68 regions, but unfortunately still not Nigeria, but hopefully soon.
Definitely, we can't wait to see that, and because there are a lot of folks building amazing open source projects here in Nigeria, and when we have people sponsoring them, people giving them something to keep them motivated, like it is very very great, and we can't wait to see GitHub sponsoring or bringing it down, or making it accessible to Nigerian. Yeah, that's cool. All right. What will be my next question for you? It's basically I've created a project, I've gotten motivation to create, and I've been promoting it on the internet. Is there any? And I probably have gotten a sponsors too. I've gotten people that have sponsored me. People have been buying me coffee, just to say, okay, Rashid, you are doing a great job. So is there any way I can still do, or what I can do to just make my project more impactful?
Mm. Do you mean I have
Just
a
just to
question on
create.
what you mean. Like, do you mean like making it more impactful in the engineering world or to help people want to sponsor you more?
Exactly, exactly. No,
Okay.
just make it more impactful. People using the product out there find it easy, or find it more valuable. Okay, so both engineering world, and definitely if people find it interesting in the engineering part, definitely they will be happy to sponsor.
Yeah. I guess it depends on the project. But if I were going about that, I would probably ask my users and like tap into people on Twitter and my network like how what would you want from this project, and then ask them to give you feedback on like how it would have been better for them, and then you can go on and your contributors too, and then you can go on and improve it from there. But I'm not sure if I'll be able to answer that if I don't know what the project is. But I think learning from your users in your community is probably one of the easiest ways, and then making it clear what the project does in the documentation and in your blog post or whatever that you're doing about the project, which is why it's important to promote your project and to talk about the benefits, so that like maybe it's already impactful but people haven't used it yet, like making those impacts clear.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Just this like a summary of what you just said. Make your goal clear, like what you are offering to people. Make it very clear to them that, okay, this is what I offer you if you use this particular project, or this particular package, or whatever you are building out there. All right. There's one thing that we've not talked about, and you just mentioned it while you are giving the answer at this particular last answer, and that is community.
Mhm.
What community has to do in an open source ecosystem? What impact can community bring? What How does community come into play, basically?
Yeah, I mean, community is what open source is all about. Community is you and your contributors and your users and the sponsors. It's everybody that's helping to keep the project moving and alive. And you would basically need all of those different people, because without your contributors, your project won't gain more won't expand and won't get like bugs solved and new features added. Without users, nobody's using it, and without sponsors, you're not getting paid for that. So like community is just everybody who's around the project and helping to support and uplift it.
Right. Okay. Like a little bit of summary of what you have been saying. I guess we have more than half of our time. Basically, we are moving to the end of the show, and I guess our audience does not have any question. If they have, we'll have unpick their question and get to see how we can help them out on anything they want for us. So, a bit of what we've been talking about. We talk about open source, how you can get started contributing. Basically, we divided our discussion into two main subsection. We talk about the contributors, and we talk about the maintainer. And under the contributors session, we try to get to know what open source mean, why does open source matters to the contributors, why they should contribute, and different way they can contribute to open source. We talk about how you can get started by going to links like firsttimers.com, as mentioned by Rizel, where he was giving a brief summary of how you can get started. And another thing we talk about is the benefit of contributing. If you are contributing to open source, what are the benefits you get to see from that? Okay, so if you miss any part, you can just rewind back, probably at the end of the show, and listen to it again. We believe in one way or the other, it will definitely help you, or you get to learn something from the discussion. And that's for the contributors. Basically, we move on to the maintainer parts. If you are thinking of starting a project on your own, if you are looking for a way of maintaining projects with any other person, what you should put in place. We talk about why you should start one. We talk about how you can get started, and we talk about how you can promote it. And that was what led us to the whole concept of GitHub sponsor and what it does, and I guess at that point, Rosé was giving us a kind of insight or a kind of promise, or don't let me call it a promise at this point, a kind of hope that okay, very soon, GitHub sponsor will be part of what we have in Nigeria very soon. So she was giving us that hope for at that point. Okay, and lastly, we'll talk about the impact community have on your project, and how you can explain your impact to the whole community or the whole people that are using your projects. So that's a kind of recap of what we just said. And before we move on to the next thing, I would like to ask Rizel at this point that okay, what's your own motivation? Why are you so passionate about open source?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, hmm. I think first for me, open source kind of helped to elevate my career. I think like at first I was just a developer, and it was fun just being a developer. But once I started contributing to open source and and getting my job at GitHub, I got to know way more people. I got to have like a lot more opportunities. Like I got to be part of a keynote and just get to make more of a bigger impact and influence in the technology world. So that's why I'm passionate about it. And I think that there needs to be more Black people in general in open source, because I think one, it will help to like I said earlier, open source, I mean technology, the industry has been like depending so heavily on open source. And I think with more diversity um of like different types of people, whether it's gender, sexuality or race, that will help to improve the technology industry overall. So yeah, I'm just like passionate about getting more people in there because it will help them to have more of an impact on the technology industry. And I appreciate what it's done for me, and I appreciate the community too. There's such like a warm, welcoming community that you can like chat about technology with and learn more, and I think that's really fun.
Yeah, that's really fun. Like, yeah, while you're talking, you mentioned the fact that what open source has bring to you, what you've benefited, the benefits you've gotten from open source, and you mentioned you gave a kind of keynote uh through the open source. How do you feel talking to thousands of people at GitHub Universe and yeah, and I guess you mentioned it's one of your first experience, like talking to that kind of audience and in person, basically. How do you feel? Because you released a post or an article not long ago. I was reading the article. I was like, oh, they say was doing a great job. So how was your experience, basically?
Yeah, I mean, at first I was pretty scared. But looking back, I feel accomplished. I'm like, wow, I did that. Cause I don't know, like I wrote in the blog post, I was scared of public speaking, and I still am. But being able to get that chance to speak in front of other people and share my knowledge, was really exciting, and it felt like a big accomplishment for me.
Wow, that's cool. And I guess everybody watching us at this point, they will be like, okay, I will shoot my shot and get to
Shoot
see
yourself.
how can how open source can help my life the way our open source has helped Rizel in many ways. Okay, so I guess at this point we are at the end of the show. I guess before we go, I would like you to give the audience watching us a bit of last thoughts, what you think they should do next, what you your thoughts for them, or your gift, or let me call it gift. If I call it gift, what you have been doing, what should I call it? You have been doing good, so you have been giving us gifts this morning because we did not give you a dime for what you have been doing, basically. So just advise us and tell us what should be our next step.
Yeah, I guess my final thought is like, don't be scared. I think a lot of the stuff we talked about can feel scary, like contributing to open source or starting your own project or even speaking at a conference. But I think when you feel that type of fear, definitely embrace the challenge, because that means it's gonna move you forward and push you forward, whether it's like just improving your character or your skill set. And I think you're going to come out better on the other end. um, and it's good just to, if you're feeling scared, find other people who will be able to advise you or support you that you've seen be able to accomplish this, whether they're in your life or someone on Twitter. But yeah, just don't be scared. Embrace it. You only have one life, so just go forward with whatever idea you have. And if it doesn't always turn out the way that you expected, you can always try again or figure out what lessons you can learn from that.
Yeah, okay. I guess you can hear me now. Let's
Oh,
see this.
sorry.
Okay, that's cool. Basically, what you mentioned is that fear in you. Look for a deep hole and throw it there, then bury that fear. Basically, that
Yeah,
imposter syndrome in you, that thing that's telling you that don't do it, you can't do it. Imagine going on GitHub, search, um, um, just go to that repository and you're intended to contribute or you're passionate about, and you feel like this code base who will help me out. Definitely, it's do feel scary at this from when you start basically, but when you try to talk to the maintainers of the project, they get to help you. They are there to help you basically.
yeah.
Just one of the key things they usually tell us is just ask any question. Don't
Mhm.
feel like this question is dumb. They will think I don't know what I'm doing. They will think I'm not a serious person. Don't think that way. Ask any question that you feel like okay. You can ask a question to the extent that okay, how can I add a link to they are there to mentor you and going on GitHub basically there are different projects there. There are projects that have mentorship. They get to mentor you before you even contribute to it. So just go out there and apart from that there are a lot of what's it called mentorship program around open source for students and for non for graduates, people that are not students, for professionals out there. So one of them is the LFX, the Linux Foundation mentorship program. We have the Google Summer of Code program. We have the what's it called? We have the outreach program. All those programs are just to make you contribute to open source, and they will mentor you. They give you necessary training, and before you even come out of the program, you learn a lot. You get to increase your network. You get to meet with a lot of people out there, basically. So what we are driving at is just go out there, pick that project that you want to contribute to, talk to people on that project, join their discussion, join their community, Discord server, Slack channel, WhatsApp, Telegram, anything they are using, just join. You can join their mailing list and just follow up, talk to anybody on the project. People are there to help. If I'm on the repository and you'll be like, I don't know how to do it, definitely that's what I love doing. And basically, just don't bury the fear, as mentioned by yourself. That fear in you, bury, throw it away. You can do it. Yeah, we believe you can do it because if everybody is saying, I cannot do it, I cannot, who will do it? So, basic point is go out there and do it. Definitely, you can do it. So, at this point, we've come to the end of our discussion, and I believe for everyone that joined us during the process, they've learned one or two things. And for those of us that will be watching the recording at the end of the show, definitely can comment down if you have any question. Definitely, we'll look for a way of answering your question. And if you need any help, you can reach out to any one of them. I will be adding the link to Twitter and of Rizel in the um, video description. Around the video description you find the cheetah and this there, and I will add my own. I'll put my own there, and probably in the future if you check it back tomorrow you get to see more links to how you can get started, links to article that Rizel wrote about getting started, how to contribute to no code, and any other or other people out there, the article they've written. Basically, I'll add links to that in the description of this video. And don't forget to like, subscribe to this channel so that you can get to get content like this and get that motivation to do more. So at this point, we come to the end of this show. Thank you so much, Risa, for coming. I can remember not up to 5 days now that I come just came to your DM and be like, Risa, we want to have a show on open source. You were like, okay, that's cool. What day do you want to have it? What time? And you were like, okay, I'm cool with it. Let's just do it. So thank you so much for coming up to our show. We really appreciate you for doing that. Thank you so much.
No, thank
And
you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. We know that next time that we'll be having this kind of show, you'll be very, very glad to join us, and we'll be having this more open source Wednesday so many times. And when we need you, we'll definitely reach out to you and be like,
Yeah.
okay, come and talk to us more, come and give us motivation. All right. So at this point, I would like to say to our viewers, thanks so much for coming. If you are not there, we will not be here because you are the one listening to what we are saying. And we believe what we've said will definitely, in one way or the other, impact your life and give you more motivation to do more. So at this point, I want to say bye bye, everyone. Thank you for coming. Yeah, bye, yourself. Bye.